Bow staff, moving forwards and backwards strike. We're going to take what we have learned so far, add one more new thing. What we've learned so far is that 4-beat method, that 4-strike method. We want to take that and now be mobile with it. We're going to start being mobile by moving forwards and backwards. So we're going to take 3 steps forwards and apply that same 4-beat method as we step forward 3 times. We'll take 3 steps backwards. We'll apply that same 4-beat method as we go backwards, something that's typically more difficult because we're not used to stepping back and striking as we step back. So we'll look at that process and get used to that. As we do so, we'll do it in a systematic way. But note that the goal is to be able to flow, to be able to move forward, to move backwards. Later, we'll talk about how to rotate around in a circular method in terms of clockwise and counterclockwise. And we'll do that very systematically, which is good practice. But once you have done that systematically, then the goal is to be able to move forward and backwards in a flow type method without necessarily needing to take 3 steps with exactly 4 strikes. But it's good practice to first start off with a very systematic. We're going to take 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. We also really want to control the limited space that we have. And that's really good practice for any type of bow staff, because if you're out in the middle of nowhere, if you're out in the middle of the plains, then you can swing the bow staff wherever you want and you'll act completely differently. But normally there's restrictions. And so the fact that there's things around you means that you have to control the bow staff in a more controlled fashion. And that's good practice for the bow staff. So when we move forward, when we move backwards, we want to make sure that we're aware of the space that's around us as we use the bow staff. Here we are with our set stance. We're going to start off with our normal stance. At the right here, kind of the low type of stance we'll start with. We got our normal motion. We're going to go through the same 4-step motion that we've seen before. We're squared off, looking forward. The next thing we're going to do is step forward. Notice we're going to take, in essence, 3 steps. We're going to try to make this standardized, and then we're going to take 3 steps back. As we do this, we're going to go through our motion, which has a 4 steps stroke or 4 beats to the bow staff. So we have the bow staff with those 4 beats, and we're going to try to take a step forward, which each of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4 with 1 step. 1, 2, 3, 4 with 2 steps. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be our system. We're going to take that same thing, and then we're going to move forward. So we're going to be mobile as we go. And notice we're basically using the first step as the strike step. So we're striking as we go forward, and then the setup, we're bringing our back foot back up to match it. So we're basically always leading with the same foot. And so we're going back the same thing. Notice the strike is happening as we have that step back. So let's go through it again. Step forward, strike, and then we go through the 4 steps to set back up and be back into the same position. And then we can keep moving forward. And then we move back with the strike on the back step. The strike is on the back step. Notice the strike is happening here as the back step happens. So we're kind of going backwards and then having the strike as we have that set, but we're still on going back. Going back is usually a little bit harder than going forward. So to actually move back and then have a strike as you're moving back is a little bit more difficult at times. And this will give us our first sense of mobility. So we'll be able to move around as we do this. We'll be able to move forward, move back as we do this. Next time we'll go through a circular movement. So we'll be able to go around in more of a circular type movement, and we'll work on that as well. So here we go. We go a little bit faster with this. You don't have to be as systemized as this. Notice we're doing this in a kind of a systematic way. The reason we're going to do it in a systematic way is just so we can get used to it. We can get used to how we might basically move around and step forward, or as we're going through this. Later on, you can obviously step forward in different ways. You can angle the bow staff in different ways as you move forward and as you move back. So it doesn't need to be just a mechanical type of step. You don't have to move exactly in this format. You want to just be able to flow going forward and going back, but just realize that you can use this same process. Doesn't have to be in a set position. Doesn't have to be stepping forward in any set position. You don't have to have a mind frame of I'm stepping forward with the 4-step strike method here. But it's a good starting point to do that, because that will allow you to then apply it in different ways. Then it usually takes most people a little bit of time to get used to this. We'll try the side angle now. So we'll do the same thing from the side angle. So we're just doing the same process, but we're going to be stepping forward. We're going to be stepping forward. Notice the first step forward, and then we're just meeting it as we go back in. We're just back now, and then this foot coming back in to meet the first foot. So we'll go back out. Just getting the timing as you go through this. It'll take some time to really. So here we'll go through it again. Low stance. We're going to take our step forward, take the step forward, take the step forward, and notice we're setting up as we get back into it. Again, you'll get kind of tied up from time to time. You try to standardize this thing perfectly, but to get a standardized step forward and step back and do it in a perfect kind of systematic way is good practice to do. And then when you're just kind of flowing, putting something together, you'll be able to naturally step forward, naturally step back. And then later on, we'll work on doing the same thing with rotating. How can you rotate around with the same position, clockwise and counterclockwise? And then once you see that, then you have the same thing and you're mobile now. So same positions, you can alter the stroke 2-beat type of strike to a 4-beat, 4-stroke type of strike. And then you could move forward and you can move back. Now we'll take a look at this position, same type of thing. We're gonna be moving forward now. So same movement, you can see it from this angle. And then we're gonna be moving back. We're just doing the same thing, new angle. And we're just getting used to basically being able to be mobile now. Moving forward, moving back. We're trying to stay, and it does take practice to stay in a certain range. And that's going to be really important because obviously one of the problems with a bow staff is that we're going to be doing this angle, moving forward, and then same thing, stepping back. So we're going to have the same process, moving forward, stepping back, and again, just practicing being in the same area. Our goal here is just to be in the same area, have control of a minimal amount of space. And that's something you really want to practice on with the bow staff because the bow staff has a lot of reach. It's great when you're out in the middle of the woods, but oftentimes you're not. Oftentimes there's things around you are going to stop the reach of the bow staff, and you have to be very when you're dealing with something. So it's really good practice to be aware of that, be able to put yourself in a small range of area and still be able to use the bow staff effectively and know when you're restrained. Is good practice for the bow staff. It's good at knowing, what you can do with those restrictions around you. So obviously you don't want to practice with restrictions that you don't want to have break. So in this way, we can see the same. We're just going to do the same thing. We're going to be stepping 3 steps forward, and then we'll be bringing it right back again. So we're going to be stepping forward, and then bringing it back. Trying not to go too far forward. We don't want to hit the wall, and so we're going to be stepping forward, so we're stepping forward now. And same idea, we want to stay in the same range, and we got to be aware of our space, especially if we're indoors, of course, when we're moving forward and backwards, we don't forward. So it's good practice to be aware of everything that's around us as we move forward and as we move back.